This is like, okay. So the idea is like to go together through all the routes that we have been building up together, as we say, and like we want to tie together all our distant offices and homes in a unified working experience. So the first thing, like we wanted to put the emphasis in security. Slack is not the correct medium to exchange clients' information that are confidential. For example, like if you have documents, we have shared drive. Each project has a private shared drive to share them. So that is the place where the document should live. And if you want to exchange tokens, passwords, and other security-related information, you need to use Keeper. In Slack, what we use it for are all the communication related to the project and like all the syncing up between ourselves. So that's quite important to remember. One thing that is very important, not only in Slack, but also in all the services that are going to be part of our stack, is to be consistent in the notations that we use. They help a lot when people move from project to project or work with other people to be able to follow up what is going on. In a Slack, we use name, surname for the full name, and we use name.surname for the display name. We also like need to use a avatar, and like we try to use the avatar of our face to be able to communicate. Like it's okay if somebody is using for some time a sheep. Some people have used it, but like let's use everybody a face pic because it's better for our building up the relationship between us. And the idea is that this all our stack should have the same pic, so it's easy to work with. Some, for example, like in the issues in Jira or in the commits in Bitbucket, sometimes they only show the avatar. So it's very important to be able to use that as a way to recognize who are you looking for. In the future, we are working to unify all these. Like if we pull it out, it's going to be a lot easier for everybody. Right now, like if you can, you go to all the services in our stack and try to be uniform. So the first thing that like is important is what is the map of the channels, of the different spaces that we have in Slack. We have a group of global channels. These are the channels that are shared by all the company, and we use them to discuss things about like cross-client communication. The main one is the general channel, where all discussions are welcome. There are announcement channels and announcements country by each country, where only important announcements are made. And the idea is that only threads are allowed in that channel. If you want, you can also take the discussion to the general channel. There is also a security channel that also with all the process that we are going forward with the SOC 2, we really need to focus on that. So there is a particular space for everything related to security. It is a discussion channel also. So like if you have any doubts about how you should work with client document, with confidential information, if you are not sure about something, please go there. Obviously, that's a public channel, so don't ask directly something with a password or something. But like let's use that particular channel to try to everybody level up on security. We also have a few channels that are Q&A. We have the support channel and the all hands. These channels, the idea is that everybody can post questions. In the support is more related to administration or to some access problems or something like related to the services that we use, how to use anything from Slack, Jira, or whatever. And in all hands, that the idea is to have like a continuum space where we can talk with the partners of the company. Like the Q&A format there, it will be nice if Slack will enforce it, but it's not possible. So the idea is that everybody like can post a question and we discuss that question in the thread. So then when we look at the channel, it's directly, you can see all the questions there. I can show you. Okay, if you see a Slack, if we go to the, for example, let's go to the all hands. In the all hands channel, like if we look at the questions, we use done emoji reaction in all the questions that already have been answered. So you can check when somebody ask a question there. You can check later if it's already answered or not, and check the content in the thread directly. And we have other channels also. There is the blog channel to discuss about potential blog posts. There is also a talks channel where we discuss like this kind of talk that we are doing for everybody. So like all these channels, they start with the slash directly, meaning that there isn't a client there. We also have tech channels. These are also common spaces where the idea is to try to share our experiences, to ask questions. Like we are a lot on the company, and we have together like tons of experience in I think almost all issues that you can run into. So you can go and ask in a Stack Overflow, but we have like here, if you go to the proper channels, if you go to JavaScript, CSS problems, you're going to find like very helpful people around. We also use them to share things that like not only questions, like news that we think are important, or like interesting articles. Or even like, I don't know, if you have been working on something and you solve it and it's like a difficult JavaScript thing that you think that can be helpful for others, go there and share it. Like even if you think that maybe, I don't know, is not that is trivial or something, like for sure you're going to help somebody else just by sharing it. Then we have also community channels. The idea of this channel is more or less to think of it like a hallway of our office. So it is the talks that we normally do if you go together to have a beer somewhere else, or you go to a restaurant or something, or like in the free times. These channels are important because like they help a lot in knowing each other, and if we relate better and like can know the people that we're working with, we work a lot better. And also like it's not only about work. Like we spend a lot of time together working for Learning Labs, and it's important that this is also like a time where we are having fun, and like we are learning, and we are also sharing with others, and like building a good group. So it's also like encouraged to use them. They all start with an X, just to make them go down in the list when you go alphabetically in the sidebar of Slack. So as we said before, like there is a naming convention for not only how we name ourselves, but also for the channels. We use a client project for all the project channels. And if the client is big enough, we have a client slash global. For example, in Alimate there is a global channel because there is a lot of people, and in PayPal also there is also a global channel available. There is also one in Stout right now. And there we have all the cross-project communication. Like if you have any issues again or questions, also like is a very good place to share them. And it's again not only about questions. Like if you solve something that is interesting, like that's a very good place to share it, and it is only related to a particular client, so it's safe to share information there. Like I don't know, if you solve something, if a release was good, if something was good in the sprint or something, like let's share that information. It makes the space a lot better for everybody to know what others are working on and to feel the progress that everybody is making. Sometimes the clients are like quite big, so we also start to branch because the global start to be a little bit crowded, and like there is a lot of conversations. So some clients will have like a client slash docs or client slash testing or QA to better organize the work there. And in some particular cases, like there are some projects that are also quite big. So there is also particular like client project QA, for example, or something like that. We also have shared channels with external stakeholders, not in for all the clients, but for some. And in that case, all of them start with team. So if you see like a channel that is called like team on some clients, that means that there you have like single channel guests or multiple channel guests that are external to Lenio Lab. So be sure to communicate with them like in English or like how the client communicates normally. And in the same way, there are some like team client project if there is several projects with that client. And as we say before, the common company wide channels, they start with the slash. So they normally show above everything in the list. They are the first one, our common channels. And the community channels start with the X, pushing them to the bottom, as we said. So let's move on. So this is quite important. Slack, like channels in Slack are spaced with a name and purpose. Like they create when we use them. We create spaces that are going to go beyond our individual discussions. They create spaces that when somebody new enters the company, they are going to be able to join something that is like already working. There are already flows or of how the people work together. They have pins. They have topics. You can name channels, and there will be a link to them. So it is quite important to when you see something that you see are discussing a lot with some people, and there is a common topic, it is important to try to make together a space, name it, and try to make it part of our office. Like you can think it as rooms in a real office. Like there will be a meeting room, there will be the like, I don't know, the patio or something, and like in each space there are particular things that happen. And you can think of Slack as a wiki of discussions. Instead of a wiki of articles, like Wikipedia, for example, like in this case, every channel is a conversation that is interlinked with others. When every time that you name a channel, you're interlinked with another conversation. Like I don't know, like in the example here, that like, hey, we discussed this in JavaScript, and you can go there, or you can directly share a link to that other conversation. If we go to a Slack, for example, like there is a button in the more actions where you can copy a link and you can share it in somewhere else. So all the history that we are generating is not lost. If something was discussed before, you can link it back and say like, hey, we already discussed this and we decided this because of that. And you can link to that discussion, and then Slack becomes kind of the history of our interactions together. And for this to work, we need to create these spaces. We are insisting a lot with direct messages, like to try to avoid using it that much because of that. Because when we use the common spaces, we create and we build up this history together. DMs are useful to discuss, for example, like personal matters, or sometimes something that is quite like punctual. But they don't participate in this like history. And there is also no topics to them. There is then a name. You cannot refer to them in other discussions, or you cannot add new members. For example, like if there is a project team that only have 2 people, and that 2 people are discussing everything related to the project and taking all the decisions between themselves in the DM of themselves, when a third person will join the project, he will see a blank screen. The complete history of the project will be a blank screen. And that is quite bad. You can, like, even if you have the discussions available, like, and you can maybe like copy and paste or like take a screenshot and send it to them, like for something, but you cannot use the normal tools of Slack. Like if this is part of the history of the project, you will be able to say like, yeah, that's a good question. We discussed this like 3 weeks ago. Like take a link and you can read the discussion if you want. Of course, this is not a replacement for proper documentation. This is not a replacement for like after discussing a topic, like maybe like create a document or like put things in a wiki for like more organizations. But sometimes the discussions are very useful. The search in Slack is quite powerful, and you can find like a lot of things with it. So the idea is this, like use the channels for work-related discussions, and try to move like as much as possible to them. Like even if you don't want to move them because of like jokes or memes that you want to put in something else, like you can place them. Like there are like Slack is internal to us. Like the clients don't see that discussions, and we can safely share like a joke or something like that. Like all obviously being respectful with everybody, but like that's like normal in the project channel. Is better to do that, and because when you are already discussing something with somebody else in a DM, it's quite hard to say, hey, let's move to somewhere else. So better to just go to the project channel and that's it. The other thing that doesn't work with direct messages is notifications. When you are talking in a direct message, the other people are always going to see Slack red, because it's seeing Slack red is always like you can interpret a little bit like, or there is something to check, like something important should be done. And even if you have like a DM of like, I don't know, like 3 people or something, every time that you they put a message there, like they are going to have that red dot there, or that notification. And if they're working and coding or something like that, like they will get distracted. So when you are in a channel, the default is that it will not notify the people in the channel. You can discuss without problem, and then later, if you want, you can opt in the notification, and we will see later how to do that. So that's something else. So if you see that there are, for example, like 3 or more people in a DM, and if you are using that particular setup in Slack right now, try to think why you created that group. And if you want, we can do a call and let's talk and let's try to figure out together. And let's try to create private channels for that. They don't even need to be like public. You can still have exactly the same experience, but it's going to be with a namespace. For example, like right now, we created last week a channel for Mendoza, because we have like 6 people from Mendoza right now, and they already are almost becoming I don't know, they can rent a co-work office there if they want. So there is a private place for them now, and they start to interact, and that space is maybe going to become something that is going to be useful for them later, to organize and to create like part of the experience of working in Lab for them. So let's talk about them, and let's try to figure out together. And as we say, with the notifications, doing mentions is like a very helpful tool to coordinate our efforts. But if they are abused, they can create like a stressful and distracting environment. So it's good to try to be thoughtful about using them. We have decided that channel and here that they make every computer goes red, or like make every computer beep, depending on how you configure Slack, are only allowed now to use by admins. And we replace them, like if you want to communicate with several people at the same time, every project has now add client project devs handle that you can use to communicate with them. And there are other particular groups that we create to be able to communicate with group of peoples, like at UI or this kind of groups. In some bigger clients, there is also, for example, like add client devs, for example, like add EM devs, that it will notify everybody. It will be great if Slack will let us choose how this notification works. Like it will be great if they work as a here, for example, that in the case of the here, it only notifies the people that are connected to Slack and they're active. And in the case of channel, they will notify everybody, even if they are not like connected to Slack. They work like a channel, but that is what the tools of Slack offer to us. If you want also to create some particular groups for yourself, for example, you can do that, and they are, for example, they start all with the X slash. For example, there is a X slash faroles, for example, that there are the people in the office in Argentina that use a particular restaurant and they need that to organize themselves. So it's open, like for everybody, these groups, and like it's a very good way to organize together. To create them, like this is going to be part of the training, so you can check there. Like the idea is that like right now it's open to everybody. We are also working to unify these groups with the project channels, and maybe that is going to be done in like sync it automatically with the depths of the team. So that is not going to be something that you are going to have to do, but like the X, the at X name format for the groups, this kind of like community groups, let's say, you will also be able to create them like this. So you can check later how to do it. So discussing about notifications, the default preference of Slack are quite bad in this regard. Like they are sought to make a Slack a place where you kind of like go all the time. That's part of the idea. Like the default is basically like notify you like all the time. So like if you leave the defaults, you're going to be going like it's going to be really distracting, even if people use proper notifications. So if you go to your preferences, like what we advise is to only notify about the direct messages, mentions, and keywords. That is like quite a good compromise for the notifications. And if you want, you can also select nothing. Like if you don't like the sound, because there is also going to appear a red dot. So you can also check with that. Like for example, myself, I have it configured like that because I think that is enough. The other thing is that because we have a lot of channels, all the common channels, the community channels, and the clients having like even like EM testing and like docs and all these extra channels, we end up having a sidebar with like a linear list of a lot of spaces. So we need to organize that somehow to make it manageable. And one very good setting that is also not the default is that if you go to the sidebar settings in Slack, you're going to see like what is the appearance, and instead of like using the everything that is the default, that you will see all your conversations, you can only show the unread and stir conversations. So this is a very good way to set it up, because if there is a channel that doesn't have new messages, it's not going to clutter your sidebar. And if you want to have a channel that is very easy to go to and always show in the sidebar, even if there isn't any message, you can always star the channel. That so for example, like I don't know, JavaScript, maybe if you want it because you want to use that resource a lot, the general channel maybe, or the announcement channel, and obviously the project channels that you are working with, that will be stars, and there is like a little icon there. So normally, like if you have already read everything that like you're up to date, you will only see in the sidebar all your star channels. So like all the very important spaces for you, or the like that normally there should be like around like maybe 10 max or something like that. So the sidebar becomes like a very little. And this same thing, you can not only use it with channels, you can also use it with members of Slack. So if there are some people that you discuss with a lot, it's good to already have them like a star like this. So something else that we have been building up, this started in early May and is have spread across all the company right now, and we have it quite standardized, is to, because there is a lot of volume and a lot of discussions, it helps a lot to try to give it a little bit of a structure. And what we use to avoid like having some extra tools and having like people go to other sign-ins and some things like that is we mark important messages with a given emoji. So what this give us is the power to later search for them. Like if we go to a particular, for example, like if we go to Slack and we put in the search, for example, like sprint start, or let's say sprint end of their messages. So you're going to see like all the messages that we are using about how was the previous sprint. And this is extremely, extremely useful to look at. And the same we have with other kind of like emojis that and structured messages. Later we can show, but you can also use like from who, or like, for example, like on a particular time or in a particular channel or something like that. And you can see, for example, I don't know, like all the daily status for today in a particular channel. And that search is also going to be like saved, like you will have like your recent searches. So you can also use them like very easily. So one other thing is that like we have like a standard set, like there are not that many right now. We probably we are going to extend them as we see like a common need across the company. But if your particular project and your team think this is useful and you want to extend it only for your particular workflow, like try to like do a call, like think about how you will do it, like choose a good emotion for them, and like it's a very good way to organize also and to highlight some messages. So the first structured message that we use is the daily status. And the idea is that like here, the first thing that you do when you sit down to work is to like review what happened yesterday and what are your plans for today. And this is quite useful also to organize yourself, to try to see and plan what do you want to accomplish for the day. And it's also a very good place to also review if you have any blockers, and like if you want to send any reminders or warnings that like maybe you're not going to be available or something like. So it's an important moment of the day, and like everybody should be doing this. One thing that it's very easy to type, because like if you put the double colon, if you type the double colon, you don't need to go and click to select a particular emoji. You just put double colon and you start typing a status, and it's going to autocomplete for you. So it's quite easy to do. Like the friction is very low, and this is why we choose this method. And these are not only useful. This is not only for the account manager or the project manager, like in your team. It's also for the people that are working with you. Like it's very good to be like to see what other people are doing. It's very good to maybe even help. Like you can try to be as descriptive as possible. Like if you can, not only send like the number of the ticket that you're doing, like try to give a status, like take 5 minutes for that and try to say what are the challenges, like, or how you are doing it, like what is the design that you're taking for solving that particular thing, because you're going to, with that information, your teammates can help a lot. We have 3 other structured messages that we use in project teams. We first have the done message, that the idea is as we say before, like if you do something interesting, if you solve it something after working like a few hours of like really fighting with the code, like send it to the channel, like put a on and send it like a eureka message to show that your progress, and to also like share it with the people. And that is a good opportunity also, like have at hand a tool to do a GIF, for example, or something like that. Like GIF are amazing how they are integrated in Slack. So it's very good. Like if you also send something of how it's working, and that again, like that information is very good for your teammates to know that you have progress, for your tech lead, or for all the people involved in the project. The other important message is the blog, and this is really important. The idea is for these particular messages, you don't have to like wait to the next day to use them. Like these are sent at any time during the day, and the idea of the blog is, if you see that there is something like even like in the future may block you, like send it right away. uh, Express as clear as possible what is going on, and these are very helpful for the account manager, for the tech lead, for other people to try to help. We need to know when you cannot progress. And sometimes like it can be solved right away. Maybe you're blocked because of something, I don't know, like you changed a version of a particular library and you didn't know, and your teammate like can right away unblock you. And as we say always, like this like really important, like communicate. Like don't, like if you're blocked, don't stay like 4 hours trying to solve it by yourself. Like and don't be afraid of like not knowing how to do something. Like just send a message and the people are going to help you. You're going to learn something new, and like and go on. And like it's really important to communicate. And the last emoji is the like the warning, and we are using this when there is like some unexpected issue. For example, like in anime, the daily is really important, and it's assumed, everybody in your team assumes that you're going to be there and you're going to present your work. And if you cannot participate because you have like a doctor appointment or something unexpected happen, we are using this warning sign to say like I don't know, I cannot go. This is what I did. Like please cover me up. The last two messages, the structure messages that we started to use in the past months or so. And right now this is working quite well. Like I think there are like 8 teams that are already using them. And the idea is when we use the daily status or the other emojis, like the structured messages, we tend to focus a lot on the now, on what is going today, what is happening right now. And it is like, since we are almost everybody using like a sprint, is very good to use the sprints as a way, like the end of the sprint and the start, to use them as a way to focus on the big picture, like to try to see like I don't know, in the sprint end you can do a retro with your team. You are already starting to do that a lot more, and like we are moving forward with that. And you can send with a structure that is good for your team, but like you can say what was good in the sprint, that what was bad, and you can maybe try to do better next time. And with that discussion, there for sure there will be like action points that you can take to improve. So that is for the sprint end. And then for the sprint start, we take the opportunity to, after you have all the issues in the table and you see how the sprint is going to be, to discuss everybody, to try to see if there are any blocker, like if we need like to raise issues or something like that, and we send a message about that, like we think that this is going to be fine, like maybe some particular issue is going to be more problematic, but like we are fine. Or like this is quite a lot, and because there was a lot of pressure, we couldn't like not take that many issues this time because there is the release, and like maybe we need help. And so again, like this is part of that idea, like we need to communicate, we need to talk, and it's totally normal that something it's not going according to plan, and like if we communicate, we can solve it together. So Slack has some support for formatting. It uses Markdown. I think this is like common knowledge to everybody right now, but it's good to also review it since we are looking through everything. And you can use bold or italic strike through, like using like regular Markdown. Code is supported in line code using backticks, and if you use 3 backticks, you can create a code block. It will be amazing if Slack will syntax highlight that. Like normally in Markdown, there is the common extension that you do triple backtick and then you put JS and it will highlight it. We can use it with, like, there are ways to add code blocks for real, like but syntax highlight, but you have to click like 4 times, and it's really doesn't go well with the flow of discussion normally. So like we can live without highlighting right now. Quotes are also supported, and one thing that is important also, if you click like Shift plus Enter, instead of sending the message, is going to add a new line, and that is quite good sometimes to like be able, like if you are like, I don't know, like you are thinking about a design about how to solve something and you want to communicate it with your team, maybe it's good to like use Shift Enter and you like lay out the complete design, like it can be just like 3 phrases, maybe it doesn't have to be like a complete book, but with that you are going to like the discussion is going to work a lot better, because if you only send it like in 3 messages, maybe somebody else is going to go over you and is going to end up in separate messages. If somebody has a, like, depending on how they configure notifications, you're going to make a lot of noise in the other side also. So it's a good tool. Or sometimes like if we just discuss in like single lines, we don't reach like the discussion doesn't end well sometimes, and this helps in some situations.
Matthias,
Yeah.
for inline code, you can use Command Shift C, and it's really handy because it adds the backticks with a.
Yeah, that is very good. We were discussing with Ender last time, and that is quite good. The only problem that there isn't any shortcut for the code block, only for the inline code, and but is good. Is something like Ender was sending like all the lines like directly like in inline code of a particular code block, because that was easier in the flow of the discussion. Like this has to do again with the like not using 4 clicks. Like is a good thing, and that's a good comment. Like there is later something about the shortcuts, but like check there is a here, like if we go to, let's go to Slack. So in a Slack, if you go to keyboard shortcuts, you're going to see here all of them directly in a Slack, and it's quite good. Like I don't know, like for example, like the Control K that later that is going to open the quick search with your like regular channels, and you can search directly messages, files, channels, everything. So like that's quite helpful, and there is for a lot of things except for the code block. That would be quite good to have. So something else that helps a lot when like we are organizing like our particular experience of Slack is to have a way to like mark important messages to review later. One way to do that is to use the star messages. That's, for example, that's what I normally use. Like when I see a message that like is important and I have to review later, I add like the star message. And if you press like the show star items, or you press Command or Control Shift S, you are going to see in Slack all of them. So here, for example, like I don't know, this is a question in all hands that like I want to review, so I will put the star message, and then you can press the show star items here, and you're going to see like all the lists that you want to take care of. And when you're done, you can directly like unstar it there, and it's done. So that's one way to do it. For people that likes the inbox zero like methodology, like there are quite a lot. Martin have convinced quite a few that is like a really good strategy. You can do the same in Slack. That basically like is like a similar flow, where if you want, like if you see something that you should take care of, right away you put like with the 3 dots and you remind me about, and you choose like 3 hours tomorrow, like, or when you have to deal with it. So you're going to have in your DM, Slack bot is going to tell you, hey, like you have to take care of this. And if you cannot take care, you go again and like push it forward. But this is a very good way, like if you're organized, like this is a very good way to avoid having things in your head, like you know that somebody else is going to remind you that you should do something. And if you type remind list in your DM with the Slack bot, you will have a complete list of all this that is the same function as the star messages that we saw in the other slide. Like it's quite similar in that way. So that is also quite useful. About reminders, like they are also quite useful in the project channels. We normally set, for example, like for the status, so like everybody, like again, they don't have to remember, like normally at 9:30 or 10, like a Slack bot is going to help us and put a message there that is saying like, hey, what you did yesterday, what are you going to do today? Like, do you have any blockers? So we are reminded we have to do it. But like, I don't know, if you have a recurring call, for example, like the daily NEM or something like that, you can also use them. Something else that's quite useful in case you have like tons of channels and like the messages like accumulate, maybe when you sit down or something like that after some time, is the all on reads. The all on reads, what is going to happen is that it's going to show absolutely everything that you haven't read in like quite organized, and you can go like in individual channels and say like, okay, I have read this complete channel, I have read this one, I have read this one. Or if you scroll to the bottom, like checking it, like all the updates together, there will be a mark all messages read. And if you press it, it's going to like show you a pony or a tractor or whatever Slack is going to decide, and it's going to be done. So it's quite a good way to catch up quickly with the discussions that everybody is having. and there is like ton more of things that we could say. And again, like this is like open, let's say like open rules that we are creating together, and they are going to keep evolving. We can now keep this presentation for the onboarding of new people, and like, or to check later, and have a way to see them all together, all the conventions, the naming conventions, and the things that we consider useful, and how to use Slack. So like, again, there is a lot of things, like some extra bonus things, like for example, like you can search using filters as we saw before, like using the from double colon, the in for a channel, or the on a certain time. You can say like on today, on yesterday, on the week, or whatever. Like as we say, like with the command K to open the quick switcher, that is quite good to go to messages or channels. We also discusses about GIF, but it's good to repeat it. Like GIF are really smooth in Slack, and they are amazing. So like try to make GIF of what you're doing, of like the user interface working, of a problem. Like, so when you ask a question or when you show progress, you can show that, and it's going to give like tons of context to other people. Like instead of saying just like the margin is wrong, like do a screenshot or like do a GIF and send that to Slack, and it's going to like go a long way in helping other people understand what is your problem. And then like emoji reactions also, like they're awesome. Like they help a lot to keep like to not clutter the channels. Like if everybody, like when there is kind of like an announcement or something general or something, if everybody will say something instead of just like adding emoji reactions, or with something someone like put a done and you want to like show your support or something like that, like we will have like tons more of messages, and then we will be kind of unreadable. So we only do that when somebody join Legend Labs. That is good to everybody say welcome, but then like emoji reaction are quite an amazing tool. And that's is it. So let's talk in here or in Slack, or like, is there questions, comments, like other things that you think are useful?